Today we are doing the Nootnootmyboot record guide of July 2020. We are going to be going over the best, the worst, and the honorable mentions of this past month, records of this past month of July. So starting with the good but not as good / honorable mentions. So these were records that were good but not as good, obviously, but they were still good. Starting from the worst of the honorable mentions, we have Olive Retreat, Ugly is Beautiful. Troll God and baggy jeans aside, he somehow detaches himself from that persona while still keeping the idea of it well and alive. The only issue is that I could live without the painfully similar way each track starts, the similar way each track ends, and the similar way each one is structured. 1993 is the only one that really stands out and has this very oddly aggressive groove with very beating rhythm that basically rules all over the other tracks. Other than that, I do like the somehow thought out way the electro dance thumps combined to his half mainstream alt rock with the dashes of 90s in a lot of the courses, and he even throws in some Beastie Boys solo raps. Dude just needs to distinct his tunes more. I know he can. B-. Next, we have Nicolas Jaar, Telas. Most of the time extremely clustering with hyper slow electric acoustic pieces that very slowly intertwine with each instrument as we progress forward. Some moments are less memorable than I prefer, but at least it's a zany ride that is half soothing at some points and most of the time an ambitious fright to see what you're going to get next. B-. Next, we have Terrace Martin, Robert Glasper, Ninth Wonder, and Kamasi Washington, Dinner Party. This is one sparkly dinner party, most of the time very soulful or the amount of refrains to it. The clearest cuts are extremely shiny and sway all night in a Chicago apartment complex, or as the title suggests, fancy wine get-together. B-. Pop Smoke, Shoot for the Stars, Aim for the Moon. Pop Smoke very drills hard on although spotty, sharp first and final release. It's best when the tracks have the slick drill beats that are hard as butter. And usually the romantic numbers are a better tonal switch up as well. So there are some good tracks. B-. Next we have Logic No Pressure. Turns out he was a dad under our noses the whole time. Whatever the case is, he's greatly evolved. No more lyrics about his haters or his biracialness in mere sight. Instead, its tone is more respectful about his growth in the industry, the hardships, getting better at the craft, and the best one of all, the themes about being a dad, and the track, Dad Bod, where he basically mocks how much of a boring drag his new life as a dad is. He's finally self-aware. B-. Juice WRLD, Legends Never Die. At 22 tracks, it sometimes homages too much, and it also seems his themes don't go far beyond the usual. But he's at best with tracks that have punchy beats, or even the darkest tracks of him almost predicting his death. Very sentimental and heartfelt without getting too blurry-eyed or gruesome. And even some of the tracks with the features are good as well, except the Marshmallow one. B-. Animal Collective, Bridge to Quiet. This is not really a full comeback. While some ideas don't go too far, their weird reinventions are pretty interesting, and the more melodic parts are oddly hypnotic. The track Piggy Nose's refrains sound interpolated from the Coraline soundtrack or something. B-. Next we have Taylor Swift, Folklore. 16 tracks, 3 of them are sort of Lana Del ripoffs, 3 of them are way too muddled in their mix, and some are duller than I prefer. I don't exactly coincide with this idea that she bought this album to make her legacy worth something to critics.
Make my album, worker bee.
Yes, my queen.
It sounds way too pop contrived in her Taylor-y way to be fully conceived by other hands. Besides that, the acoustic numbers that hit are robust and organized in her very homegrown, girly persona. She's finally evolving. Something's happening here, although nothing spectacular, it's something. B-. Protomartyr, Ultimate Success Today, which is the last of our honorable mentions. which is the best of our honorable mentions. These post-punkies riot on these building rhythms. The track Tranquilizer unalarmingly blares in these leaping moments of sort of chorus. The track I Am You Now cuts through with demanding passages, and others are equally exciting in riffs that are always on angst or on pressure. It only falters when these rhythms seem to end up leading to nowhere. And I'm giving this one a B-, although it is B- to a B. Let's go to the not good section. These were albums that weren't good, starting from the best of the not good to the worst of the not good. This might sadden a lot of you. 100 gecs, 1,000 gecs, and the Tree of Clues. The Hello Kitty sporadic pill gods refuse to die, but they also reverse their status. Now, sound is remixed. This is a remix album. It's mostly unsaved though. It's scary the way Patrick Stump's voice is deformed into his number, or how dull some of the remixes are. Even the stupid horse song wasn't even remotely cared for. It just became a rhyme fiasco about different stupid animals with more stupid objects. Meh. Even worse than that, we have Daniel Avery, Love Plus Light. A couple of highlights. The third cut is very bold of building monkey rhythms, and the second one even has some siren progressing blares intertwined in the mix. A lot of it is usually pretty repetitive mushes that don't lead to anywhere or uninteresting and bland. Dud-wud. Next up, Westside Gunn. Flygod is an awesome god too. Most of the time his architecture barely goes further than a hookless 2 or 3 verse track that doesn't leave the necessary impact. Half of them are even interludes, and some are even one measly verse that flails away with an underwhelmed face of boredom. Dud-wud. Juliana Barwick, Healing is a Miracle. It's very peaceful and serene in a slow crooning and meditative new age form. It's just too forgettable. Dud-wud. Dominic Fike, What Could Possibly Go Wrong? Demo effects cover this whole face. It's also confusing whether or not they were intentional, since they appear here and there in varying degrees of bite. Also noted, the songwriting structure is so off the walls, confusing the way each track is usually laid out, and even further, his lyric themes in the songs are pretty vague or unclear. And even further than that, its sound is pretty bleak. It's like a half-alt mainstream rockness that doesn't have a whole lot of presence, since it's all been taken away from these bleak afterward treatments. Dud-wud. Blade 333, or is it Blade 333? Not sure. This album brings out the misogynistic type more than 100 gecs will ever do, and makes me more psychedelically confused than like an Impala or something. And overall, it just plain sounds like a mess. I'm very confused whether I like the paint or not. I think it's definitely improved in like his last project, the mixtape he dropped earlier this year, but I'm still confused how I feel about it, and it's still a sort of pain, so dud-wud. And finally, the worst album of this month of July, Sababi Barnacles. This man is a lifeless Thugger clone, what it sounds like, and as trippy as his serene mixes go, by the end it's pretty draining. And not only does the sound get draining, but so does his very squirmish, rambly vocals that just seem to ramble on about nothing. Gawkface. Anyway, now let's go on to the best albums of this month. First, we have Imperial, Triumphant, Alphaville. This is a very bold metal sound with so many chug builds, and more importantly, it crosses into different directions of the insane. The whole album starts with these weird instrumentation swells. There's even an intro on one of the tracks that's sort of piano jazzy, a cappella part in one of the tracks as well, and even then the chaos moments are different wild formations of sometimes screeching. B+ to A- due to change in the future. The whole thing is a labyrinth where each track you see a new different kind of insane. Next up we have Boris No. This is crust punk that the cool kids still get a kick out of. It's either a slop of verse, chorus into the rowdy whatever is going on, all the way to the very slow, defining building havoc. Even the female vocalist sounds like she could beat me up. B+. In second place, we have Lianne self-titled. This girl writes very sharp, soul-bound numbers, so defined you can't tell which ones are made for the radio or not. Robust, very impactful most of the time, and sharp and soothing. A-. And finally, we have the best, the only A in my album of the year so far, actually. Blue and Exile, Miles. This is a very impeccable sample and jazz fiasco. So many clearly defined tracks with so many different themes that tie together about Blue, the rapper, and things about how he grew up in the industry, how he was treated in the industry, how he grew up with music, how music has inspired him, or how music has grown up in the world itself. And also, the best part, it's pretty much segmented the only thing that it really needs. Beats and rhymes. A. That's right, I'm giving this one an A. The only A of this month and it's album of the year so far. Anyway, thanks for checking in. Albums of July, the record guide of July. I might make one next month. Let's see where this goes. And I'm working on other stuff too. Bye bye.